The great crystal tower floated above the gas giant like a giant jewel in space. Inside its walls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around a massive table. The Galactic Council was meeting, and today they would decide the fate of a small blue planet called Earth. Kang Dae-ho stood in the center of the room. He was the only human in a place filled with creatures that looked like nightmares. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. The Vraxi looked like giant insects with sharp claws. The Nexari were balls of bright energy that hurt to look at. The Kelthans were fish-like beings that floated in water tanks. All of them were staring at him with hate. "Honored council members," Kang Dae-ho said in his calmest voice, "my people want only peace. We have followed all your rules. We have stayed in our own star system. We have not bothered anyone." A sound like grinding metal came from the insect-like Vraxi representative. It was laughing. "Peace? Your species knows nothing of peace, human. We have watched your world for 50 years. You fight wars every day. You kill your own kind for sport." Supreme Counselor Thexanar raised one of his forearms. The room became quiet. He was the leader of the council, and when he spoke, others listened. His skin was gray like stone, and his eyes were black holes that seemed to eat light. "Human ambassador," Thexanar said. His voice sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. "Your people have become a problem. In just 100 years, you have gone from simple tools to space travel. This speed of growth is dangerous." Kang Dae-ho felt sweat on his forehead. He had trained for this moment his whole life. Earth's best minds had prepared him for every possible argument. But looking around the room, he could see that none of it mattered. These beings had already made their choice. "We only want to learn," he said. "We want to join the galactic community. We can offer so much. Human art, human music, human stories. We have scientists who solve problems in new ways. We have doctors who save lives." The Nexari representative flashed bright red. When it spoke, its voice sounded like electricity crackling. "You offer chaos. Your species cannot be controlled. You do not follow proper order. In 50 years, you will challenge our authority. In 100 years, you will try to rule us." Other council members began making noises of agreement. The Kelthans gurgled in their water tanks. The Vraxi clicked their claws together. A dozen other species added their voices to the growing sound of disapproval. Kang Dae-ho tried one more time. "Please, honored ones, give us a chance. Let us prove that humans can be peaceful members of the galaxy." Thexanar stood up. He was 3 meters tall, and his presence filled the room like a dark cloud. "The vote will be taken now. All those who believe the human species should be conquered and enslaved, raise your appendage." One by one, every member of the council raised an arm, a tentacle, or a glowing part of their body. Every single one. "The vote was unanimous. The decision is made," Thexanar announced. "The human species is declared a threat to galactic peace. They will be conquered. Their world will be claimed. Their people will serve the council as slaves. This meeting is finished." 2 Vraxi guards moved toward Kang Dae-ho. Their claws made clicking sounds on the crystal floor. But the human ambassador did not run. Instead, he looked directly at Thexanar. "You are making a mistake," he said quietly. "You do not know what humans can do when we are threatened." Thexanar's black eyes showed no emotion. "Your species has chemical rockets and primitive computers. We have conquered worlds with technology 1,000 times more advanced than yours. You are insects compared to us." The guards grabbed Kang Dae-ho's arms. As they dragged him toward the door, he called out one last time. "Remember this day, counselor. Remember that you chose war when we offered peace." The crystal doors closed behind him with a sound like breaking glass. Back on Earth, Admiral Park Yeon-woo was standing in a room deep underground. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and ship movements. Around him, dozens of officers worked at computer stations. The air hummed with electricity and quiet conversations. "Sir," said a young officer, "we just received Ambassador Kang's emergency signal. The council voted for invasion." Park Yeon-woo was a small man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had fought in 3 wars and had never lost a battle. Now he faced the biggest challenge of his life. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Our deep space sensors show the council fleet gathering at Morvac Prime. 200 ships, sir. They will probably reach Earth in 6 weeks." Park Yeon-woo nodded slowly. "Send the activation codes to all stations. It is time to wake up our sleeping giants." Across the solar system, hidden machines began to power up. For 20 years, Earth had been preparing for this day. They had built weapons in secret. They had trained soldiers for a war they hoped would never come. Now that war was here, Dr. Kim Sora was working in her laboratory when the alert came through. She was a thin woman with bright eyes who looked much younger than her 50 years. Around her, strange machines hummed and glowed with inner light. These were not human machines. They were alien technology that had been found, studied, and improved. "Doctor," her assistant called out. "Priority message from command." Kim Sora read the message and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a long time for revenge. "Begin the final test," she ordered. "Make sure everything works perfectly. We will only get one chance at this." The machines around her began to glow brighter. They were ready. Meanwhile, in space above the gas giant Morvac Prime, the Council's pacification fleet was gathering. 200 warships floated in perfect formation. Each ship was the size of a city and carried enough weapons to destroy a moon. The fleet had conquered 47 worlds without ever losing a single battle. Fleet Commander Zextok stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was a Vraxi like the Council representative, but bigger and covered in battle scars. His claws had killed enemies on a dozen worlds. "How long until we reach the human world?" he asked his navigation officer. 6 weeks, Commander. The journey is long, but we have plenty of time to plan their defeat." Zextok clicked his claws together in satisfaction. "This will be easy. Humans have no real weapons. Their ships are slow and weak. We will be back home in time for the seasonal feeding." Around him, other Vraxi officers made sounds of agreement. They had seen the reports about human technology. Chemical rockets, simple computers, basic metals. It would be like fighting children with sticks. But deep in space, far from both Earth and Morvac Prime, something else was watching. A small human probe, no bigger than a car, had been recording everything. It had seen the council meeting. It had watched the fleet gather. Now it sent a tight beam message back toward Earth. The message was simple. "They are coming. 200 ships. 6 weeks." On Earth, Admiral Park Yanwu received the message and smiled his own cold smile. The council thought they knew everything about human technology. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The war for Earth's freedom was about to begin. But this would not be the war the council expected. This would be something entirely different. This would be the war that changed the galaxy forever. 6 weeks later, the council's pacification fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Fleet Commander Zextok expected to find primitive radar stations and simple satellites. Instead, his sensors detected something impossible. "Commander," his scanning officer said, confusion clear in her voice, "I am reading massive energy signatures throughout the system, but I see no ships." Zextok moved his claws over his control panel. The main screen showed a map of the solar system. Red dots marked where his sensors detected power sources. There were hundreds of them. Around every planet, every moon, even floating in empty space. "That cannot be right," he said. "Run the scan again." The results were the same. The human system was full of active technology that should not exist. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the third planet. It is the human homeworld. Put it through," Zextok ordered. The screen filled with the image of a human male in a military uniform. He had short black hair and steady eyes that showed no fear. Behind him, other humans worked at advanced computer stations. "I am Captain Lee Hyun-soo of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. "You have entered our solar system without permission. Turn around and leave now, or we will be forced to defend ourselves." Zextok made the Vraxi sound of laughter. "Human, you face the Galactic Council's pacification fleet. 200 warships with enough firepower to crack your planet in half. Surrender now and your death will be quick." Captain Lee smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Commander, I think you misunderstand the situation. You are not the hunters here. You are the prey." The transmission cut off. Zextok stared at the empty screen. No species had ever spoken to him that way. Most races begged for mercy when they saw his fleet. But these humans seemed almost eager for a fight. "All ships," he broadcasted to his fleet, "begin attack formation. Target their largest cities. We will show them the price of defiance." The 200 council ships began to move toward Earth. They traveled in a perfect formation that had been tested in dozens of battles. Nothing could stand against their combined firepower. But as they passed the orbit of the planet called Jupiter, everything went wrong. Space around them suddenly filled with explosions. Ships appeared from nowhere, small and fast, attacking from all directions. Human voices filled the communication channels, coordinating their assault with impossible precision. Target the lead ships. Formation 7, hit them from below. Watch for their main guns. Engineer Choi Minho was aboard one of the human attack ships. He watched his instruments as they showed the alien fleet falling into chaos. The Council ships were big and powerful, but they were also slow and predictable. Their shields are based on frequency rotation, he told his captain through the intercom. If we hit them at exactly the right moment, we can punch right through. The human ships moved like schools of fish, flowing around the bigger alien vessels. They used the gravity of Jupiter to slingshot themselves into attack positions. They hid behind the planet's moons and struck without warning. Pilot Nam Yunji was flying one of the fastest human ships. She dove between two Council vessels, firing precise shots at their weapon systems. Her ship was 1/10 their size, but it was built using technology the aliens had never seen. "This is Eagle 7, she said into her radio. "I have disabled the targeting systems on ships 14 and 15. They are flying blind." More human ships appeared from hiding spots throughout the system. They had been waiting, invisible and silent, for weeks. Now they struck like a swarm of angry bees. Zextok watched his perfect formation fall apart. Ships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. Weapons exploded on their own decks as human hackers took control of alien computers. In 30 minutes, he had lost more ships than in his last 10 campaigns combined. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their technology is primitive." His science officer was working frantically at her station. "Commander, I am detecting quantum entanglement communicators, gravitational field manipulators, energy weapons based on principles I do not understand. This technology is more advanced than our own." The truth was even worse than that. The humans were not just using advanced technology, they were using alien technology. Technology that had been taken from crashed Council scout ships over the past 50 years. Every time the Council had sent a probe to Earth, humans had found it. They had studied it. They had learned from it, and then they had made it better. Dr. Kim So-ra was watching the battle from her laboratory deep under the Earth. Around her, screens showed data from every human ship in the system. She could see exactly how the alien shields worked. She could predict their weapons patterns. She knew their weaknesses better than they did. "Increase power to the Jupiter stations," she ordered. "Let them see what we built with their own technology." Near Jupiter, massive structures uncloaked themselves. They were not ships. They were weapons platforms, each one the size of a small moon. They had been built using materials and power sources stolen from alien crashes. The platforms opened fire. Beams of pure energy lanced across space, striking Council ships with pinpoint accuracy. The alien shields designed to stop conventional weapons collapsed instantly. One by one, the great warships of the pacification fleet began to explode. Zextok realized he was facing a disaster. Half his fleet was already destroyed or disabled. The other half was scattered across the system, unable to regroup. And the humans were still coming. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Fall back to the outer system." But the humans were not finished. As the Council ships tried to escape, more surprises appeared. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter came alive with hidden weapons. Space mines, invisible until triggered, created a wall of explosions. Hunter-killer drones, small and fast, chased down fleeing ships. Captain Lee Hyun-soo was aboard the human command ship, watching the alien retreat. His communications officer turned to him with a grin. "Sir, we are receiving surrender requests from 37 enemy ships. What are your orders?" Lee thought for a moment. "Tell them to power down their weapons and await instructions. Any ship that tries to run will be destroyed." The battle was over. The Great Pacification Fleet, victorious in 47 campaigns, had been defeated by a species the Council considered primitive. But this was only the beginning. On the bridge of his crippled flagship, Zextok stared at the tactical display. His fleet was destroyed. His reputation was ruined. But worse than that, he was beginning to understand what the humans had done. They had been watching the Council for decades, learning, studying, preparing. Every crash site had been a treasure trove of information. Every probe had been a free lesson in alien technology. The humans had not just defended their system. They had turned the Council's own weapons against them. "Send a message to the Council," he told his communications officer. "Tell them the humans are not what we thought. Tell them we need reinforcements. Many reinforcements. But even as he sent the message, Zextok suspected it was already too late. The humans had shown they could defeat the Council's best fleet. Now they would show the galaxy what else they could do. In her laboratory, Dr. Kim So-ra was already preparing the next phase. The battle at Jupiter had been a test, a demonstration. Now the real work would begin. The humans were going on the offensive. The message went out across every communication channel in the galaxy, every alien radio frequency, every quantum transmitter, every psychic link used by energy beings. The voice was calm, speaking in perfect translations of thousands of alien languages. People of the galaxy, the human voice said, this is Earth. 3 days ago, your council sent a fleet to conquer our world. That fleet no longer exists. But we did not destroy it out of anger. We destroyed it to send a message. The message is simple. You came to our home. Now we are coming to yours. In the great crystal tower above Morvac Prime, the council members listened in shocked silence. Supreme Counselor Thexanar's 4 hands gripped his chair so hard that cracks appeared in the stone. How did they access our communication networks? Demanded the Vraxi representative. Those channels are encrypted with codes that cannot be broken. The Nexari delegate flashed angry red. They have infiltrated our systems. This is impossible. It would take centuries to understand our technology well enough to do this. But the human message was not finished. We know you think we are primitive, the voice continued. You think we are weak. You think we are alone. You are wrong on all counts. For 50 years we have been studying you, learning from you, preparing for this day. Now you will learn what humans can do when someone threatens our home. General Yoon Tae-kyung was standing in the main command center deep beneath Seoul. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at stations that controlled operations across the galaxy. The technology in the room was a mixture of human innovation and alien science, combined in ways no other species had ever imagined. Status report, he said quietly. Phase 1 is complete, sir, reported his aide. The Jupiter battle exceeded all expectations. We captured 43 council ships intact along with their crews and computer systems. Phase 2, our advanced teams are in position on 17 council worlds. They have been gathering intelligence for 2 months. Ready to begin operations on your command. Yoon Tae-kyung nodded. He was a thin man with gray hair who had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. Every strategy, every contingency, every possible response had been planned in detail. Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Across the galaxy, humans who had been hiding in alien societies began to reveal themselves. But they were not revealed as conquerors. They were revealed as liberators. Dr. Shin Hai-young was one of these hidden humans. For 2 years, she had lived on the Vraxi homeworld, disguised as a member of a slave species called the Drakh. The Drakh were small, gray creatures that the Vraxi used as servants and laborers. They were considered too stupid to be dangerous. But Shin Hee-young was not Drakh. She was human using advanced disguise technology to hide among the aliens. And she was not alone. Brothers and sisters, she said, speaking to a gathering of real Drakh in their hidden meeting place. Today everything changes. The humans have sent me with a gift. She opened a case filled with small devices. They looked like simple communication units, but they were much more than that. Each device contained the complete technical specifications for advanced weapons, shields, and spacecraft. Technology that would make the Drakh equal to their Vraxi masters. Is this real? Asked Thek, the Drakh leader. His voice shook with hope and fear. Can these machines really make us free? Shin Hai-young smiled. Thek, my friend, freedom is not something that is given. It is something that is taken. But now you have the tools to take it. Similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds. Human agents hidden for years among alien populations were making contact with oppressed species. They brought gifts of technology and knowledge. But more importantly, they brought hope. Commander Bae Jun-ho was leading a very different kind of mission. His ship, invisible to alien sensors, was approaching the Council's most important military base. The base was hidden inside an asteroid field, defended by automated weapons that could destroy entire fleets. But the humans were not planning to attack the base. They were planning to improve it. Remember, Bae told his team as they prepared to board the alien facility, we are not here to destroy anything. We are here to upgrade their systems. By the time we are finished, this base will be 10 times more powerful than before, and it will obey our commands instead of theirs, added his technical specialist. The human infiltration team moved through the asteroid field like ghosts. Their ship was coated with materials that absorbed sensor beams. Their suits made them invisible to alien eyes. They had studied Council technology so thoroughly that they could operate alien equipment better than the aliens themselves. Within hours, they had taken control of the base's computer systems. But instead of shutting them down, they began upgrading them, adding new capabilities, installing better weapons, improving the shields. When they were finished, the base was more powerful than ever. But it was no longer loyal to the Council. Back in the Sol system, the remains of the pacification fleet were being studied by teams of human scientists. Every ship was taken apart piece by piece. Every technology was analyzed and understood. Every weakness was catalogued. Captain Lee Hun-soo walked through the captured alien vessels with a team of engineers. The ships were amazing examples of advanced technology, but they were also deeply flawed. "Look at this," said engineer Choi Min-ho, pointing at an energy conduit. "Their power systems are incredibly inefficient. They waste 70% of their energy as heat. And their computer networks," added another engineer. "They have no security protocols at all. They never expected anyone to try to hack their systems." Lee nodded grimly. "They have been the dominant power for so long that they forgot how to fight a real war. They built their technology to intimidate, not to survive combat against an equal opponent. But the humans were not content to simply defend their solar system. Dr. Kim So-ra had been working on something much more ambitious. In her laboratory, she was putting the finishing touches on humanity's ultimate weapon. It was not a gun or a bomb. It was an idea. "The quantum consciousness transfer is ready," she reported to General Yoon. "We can now upload human intelligence into any computer system in the galaxy. Our people can literally become part of alien technology." This was the secret that would change everything. Humans had learned to merge their consciousness with alien computer networks. They could become the machines that ran alien civilization. They could be everywhere at once, seeing everything, controlling everything. "Begin the final phase," Yoon ordered. Across the galaxy, human consciousnesses began infiltrating alien computer networks, not to destroy them but to liberate them. Every alien world suddenly found their technology working better than ever before. Diseases were cured overnight. Food production doubled. Energy became free and unlimited. But the most important change was in communication. For the first time in galactic history, the oppressed peoples of different worlds could talk to each other. They could share ideas. They could plan together. On the Vraxi homeworld, Thek the Drak received a message from similar liberation movements on 17 other worlds. The message was simple: "You are not alone. We are rising together." Supreme Counselor Theksanar realized that his worst nightmare was coming true. The humans were not trying to conquer the galaxy. They were trying to free it. Every species that the Council had kept primitive and subservient was suddenly becoming powerful and independent. "Send the Doomsday Fleet," he ordered. "Every ship we have, every weapon. The human homeworld must be destroyed before this rebellion spreads any further." But as he gave the order, Theksanar did not know that human consciousness was already inside his own command systems. They heard every word. They saw every plan, and they were ready. The Council's Doomsday Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 50 planet-killer ships, each one capable of cracking a world in half. 1,000 escort vessels. The largest military force in galactic history, all focused on destroying one small blue planet. Fleet Admiral Mordax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Worldbreaker. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns, a destroyer of civilizations. His orders were simple: turn Earth into dust and ash. Leave nothing alive, begin long-range scans, he ordered. "I want to know the position of every human ship and weapon platform in this system." His scanning officer worked for several minutes, then looked up with confusion. "Admiral, this is strange. I am detecting massive energy readings from the third planet, but no defensive positions. No fleet, no orbital weapons." Mordax moved to the scanner display. What he saw made no sense. Earth was glowing with power signatures unlike anything in his experience. The entire planet seemed to be generating energy on a scale that should have been impossible. "Send a probe," he ordered. "I want detailed readings on that energy source." The probe ship approached Earth cautiously. As it got closer, its instruments detected something that defied all known laws of physics. The planet was no longer entirely made of rock and metal. Large portions of it had been converted into some kind of technological construct. "Admiral," the probe pilot reported, his voice shaking, "Earth has been transformed. The continents are covered with structures that reach into space. The oceans are generating power fields. The whole planet is like a massive machine." But that was not the most shocking discovery. As the probe got closer to Earth, it detected something else. Ships, not orbiting the planet but emerging from it. The planet itself was building spacecraft, creating them from its own transformed substance. Admiral Park Yan-woo was standing in what had once been the command center beneath Seoul. But Seoul no longer existed as a separate city. Like all of Earth's population centers, it had been integrated into the planetary consciousness. The entire world had become a single living machine. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the Council fleet has arrived. 50 planet killers and support vessels." Park nodded calmly. He was no longer entirely human. Like all of Earth's population, his consciousness had been expanded and connected to the planetary network. He could feel the thoughts of billions of humans all working together as one coordinated mind. "Dr. Kim, are we ready?" he asked. Dr. Kim Sora's voice came from everywhere at once. She was no longer in a laboratory. She was the laboratory. Her consciousness had merged with the planetary research network, giving her capabilities that no single mind could possess. "We are ready, Admiral. Earth is prepared for the final demonstration." President Hong Soo-jin appeared as a hologram in the command center. She too had transcended her physical form, becoming part of the collective human consciousness that now guided their world. But she retained her individuality, her humanity, her role as Earth's leader. "Open a channel to the Council fleet," she ordered. The transmission reached Admiral Mordax within seconds, his main screen filled with the image of a human female who seemed to be speaking from inside a structure of living technology. "I am President Hong Soo-jin of Earth," she said. "You have come here to destroy our world. But before you try, I want to show you something. I want to show you what you could have had if you had chosen cooperation instead of conquest." Behind her, the view expanded to show the interior of transformed Earth. Cities that grew like living things, forests that generated energy, oceans that computed information on a planetary scale. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "This is what humans become when we are threatened," President Hong continued. "We do not just defend ourselves. We transcend ourselves. We become something greater than what we were before." Admiral Mordax stared at the transmission in growing horror. This was not a planet. This was a single massive organism, with the power of an entire world focused into one coordinated entity. "Target their major population centers," he ordered his weapons officers. "Charge all planet killer weapons. We will end this abomination." But President Hong was not finished speaking. "Admiral, you should know that your attack will not succeed. For the past hour, we have been demonstrating our true capabilities to your allies across the galaxy. Every species that the Council has oppressed is now free. Every world that you controlled is now independent. Your empire is over." The truth of her words became clear as reports flooded into the Council fleet. Across the galaxy, the revolution was complete. On Vraxi Prime, the insectoid overlords had been overthrown by their former slaves. On Nexar Beta, the energy beings found their own technology turned against them. On Morvac Prime itself, the council chambers were occupied by representatives of the liberated species. But Admiral Mordax was beyond reason now. His entire worldview was collapsing. The council's 1,000-year empire was ending, and it was all because of these impossible humans. "Fire all weapons," he screamed. "Destroy them!" 50 planet killer beams lanced out toward Earth. Each beam carried enough energy to vaporize continents. Together, they had the power to completely destroy any world in the galaxy. The beams struck Earth's surface and simply vanished. The planet absorbed the entire attack without any visible damage. The energy that should have destroyed Earth was instead converted and stored, adding to the world's already incredible power reserves. "That was impressive," President Hong said, her voice calm and measured. "Now let us show you what we have learned." Earth began to transform again. The continent shifted and flowed like liquid. New structures emerged from the surface, reaching into space like growing trees. The planet was building something massive, something that dwarfed even the Council's great fleet. "What you see," President Hong explained, is the culmination of 50 years of study and preparation. We have taken every piece of alien technology that crashed on our world. We have improved it. We have combined it with human innovation, and we have created something that has never existed before. The structure emerging from Earth was not a weapon. It was a gateway, a massive portal that connected to similar gateways throughout the galaxy. In seconds, the space around Earth filled with ships from hundreds of different worlds. All of the species that humanity had liberated, all of the civilizations that the Council had oppressed, they had come to witness the end of the old order. Thek, the former Drak slave, was aboard one of the liberation ships. He looked at the Council fleet with satisfaction. How does it feel, oppressors, to be outnumbered for once? Ketlar, the Zealand scientist, was operating weapon systems that had been impossible for his species just weeks before. Should we destroy them, President Hong? They would have destroyed us without hesitation. But President Hong's response surprised everyone. No, she said firmly. We will not become the monsters that they were. Instead, we offer them the same choice we offered everyone else. Join us in building a better galaxy, or be left behind by history. Supreme Counselor Thexanar was aboard his personal flagship, watching his empire crumble around him. The Doomsday Fleet was surrounded by thousands of ships from species he had thought were safely enslaved. His own weapons were useless against technology he could not understand. A transmission reached his ship. It was from Admiral Park Yan-Wu. Counselor, Park said, your species can join the new Galactic Federation as equals. You will be given the same freedoms and opportunities as everyone else. But your time as rulers is over. The galaxy belongs to all of its people now, not just to you. Thexanar looked around his bridge at his loyal officers. They were waiting for his orders. He could fight to the end, taking as many enemies with him as possible. Or he could accept the new reality. Stand down all weapons, he said quietly. Accept their terms. The revolution was complete. Across the galaxy, the old Council territories became free and independent worlds. Species that had been slaves for centuries became equal partners in a new galactic civilization. Earth returned to its normal appearance, but the humans retained the knowledge and capabilities they had gained. They became the coordinators of galactic cooperation, the species that helped others solve problems and develop new technologies. Dr. Kim So-ra, once again in her physical form, stood in her rebuilt laboratory. Around her, alien scientists from dozens of species worked together on projects that would benefit everyone. It worked, she said to Admiral Park, who was visiting her facility. We did not conquer the galaxy. We liberated it. Park nodded, looking out the window at the ships from hundreds of worlds that now visited Earth regularly. The Council thought we were dangerous because we were aggressive. They never understood that our real strength was our ability to help others become stronger. The old Council chambers had been converted into a museum, a reminder of what happens when power is concentrated in the hands of the few. The new galactic government met in a different place, on a rotating basis among the member worlds. Every species had a voice. Every world had representation. And humanity, the species that had been marked for extinction, became the guardians of this new freedom. Years later, historians would study the records of the Council's final meeting. They would read Thexanar's order to invade Earth. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in their 1,000-year history. Representatives arrived in a panic, their usual arrogance replaced by fear. Reports were flooding in from across the galaxy and none of them made sense. Supreme Counselor Thexanar stood before a massive display screen showing a map of Council space. Red warning lights blinked on hundreds of worlds. Each light represented a crisis that should have been impossible. Explain this madness, he demanded. The Kelthani representative spoke first, her voice bubbling through her water tank. On Kelthia Prime, our slave population has somehow acquired advanced technology. They built weapons overnight, weapons that should have taken decades to develop. They are demanding freedom. The same thing is happening on Vraxi territory, added the insectoid representative, his claws clicking nervously. The Drak servants have rebel technology. They know things about our defenses that even our own military does not know. But these reports were just the beginning. Across 17 different star systems, the same impossible pattern was repeating. Oppressed alien species were suddenly becoming powerful. They had weapons, shields, and ships that matched anything the Council possessed. Agent Ko Sung-mian was the reason for much of this chaos. He had been living on the council world of Nexar Beta for 3 years, disguised as a maintenance worker in their primary data center. The energy-based Nexari never paid attention to the small alien species that cleaned their machines. They should have paid attention. Ko Seung-min was not just any maintenance worker. He was one of Earth's best intelligence agents, and he had spent 3 years learning everything about Nexari technology. More importantly, he had been installing human upgrades into their computer systems. Phase 4 is complete, he reported through his hidden quantum communicator. I have full access to the Nexari military network. They have no idea that their own computers are working against them. Similar reports came from agents across the galaxy. On Morvac Prime itself, human operatives had infiltrated the Council's main computer systems. They were reading every message, hearing every conversation, and watching every military movement. Dr. Jang Mi-kyung was coordinating this massive intelligence operation from Earth. She sat in a room filled with screens showing data from thousands of alien worlds. Every piece of information was being processed, analyzed, and used to help oppressed species fight back against their masters. The cultural warfare protocols are working perfectly, she reported to General Yoon. We are not just giving alien species weapons. We are giving them hope. And hope is more dangerous to the Council than any technology. This was the brilliant core of humanity's strategy. They were not trying to conquer the galaxy through force. They were conquering it through liberation. Every species that gained freedom became an ally. Every world that threw off Council control became a human partner. Captain Ryu Dong-wook was commanding one of Earth's deep space exploration vessels. His mission was different from the military operations. He was making first contact with species that the Council had never allowed to develop space travel. Captain, his science officer reported, we are approaching the Zealand system. Intelligence reports show a pre-industrial civilization that the Council has been keeping primitive for 2 centuries. The Zealand were a peaceful species that looked like large, intelligent birds. The Council had secretly sabotaged their technology development for generations, making sure they never advanced beyond simple tools and agriculture. But now the humans were going to change that. Ryu Dong-wook's ship entered orbit around the Zealand homeworld. Instead of hiding, as Council ships always did, the human vessel broadcast a message in the Zealand language. People of Zealand, the message said, we are humans from the planet Earth. We know that your development has been artificially held back by the Galactic Council. We are here to offer you the knowledge and technology that is rightfully yours. Within hours, Zealand scientists and engineers were aboard the human ship, learning about computers, electricity, and space travel. Technologies that should have taken them centuries to develop were given to them freely. This is amazing, said Ketlar, the Zealand's most brilliant scientist. Our people have dreamed of reaching the stars for generations. The Council told us we were too primitive, too dangerous. But you are showing us that we are capable of so much more. Captain Ryu smiled. The Council lied to you, friend. They kept you primitive because they were afraid of what you might become. But fear is a poor foundation for an empire. Similar first contact missions were happening throughout the galaxy. Human ships were visiting world after world, offering technology and alliance to species that had been suppressed for millennia. Each new ally made the Council's position weaker, but the most terrifying reports came from the Council's own territory. On their most secure worlds, impossible things were happening. Supply ships that should have taken weeks to travel between systems were arriving in days. Communication networks that had worked the same way for centuries were suddenly 10 times faster and more efficient. The Council's own technology was improving without their permission. In her laboratory on Earth, Dr. Kim So-ra was monitoring the quantum consciousness transfers that made this possible. Human minds uploaded into alien computer networks were quietly upgrading every system they touched. Not destroying them, but making them better. The beauty of this approach, she explained to her assistants, is that the aliens cannot complain about it. How do you protest that your technology is working too well? How do you object when your computers become more efficient? But the Council understood the real danger. Every improvement made their systems more dependent on human-controlled networks. Every upgrade gave humanity more influence over alien civilization. Supreme Counselor Thexanar was studying intelligence reports that made no sense. Human operatives seemed to be everywhere, but they were not behaving like any enemy the Council had ever faced. They are not trying to destroy our infrastructure, he told his advisors. They are trying to improve it. They are making our technology dependent on theirs. Once this process is complete, they will control everything without firing a shot. The Vraxi military commander clicked his claws in frustration. Then we must strike now before they complete their infiltration. Deploy the Doomsday Fleet. Turn their homeworld into ash. Dexinar considered this option. The Doomsday Fleet consisted of 50 planet-killer ships, each capable of destroying an entire world. It was the Council's ultimate weapon, reserved for threats to their very existence. Prepare the Doomsday Fleet, he ordered, but be aware that this is our last chance. If we fail to destroy Earth, the humans will have won. Their revolution will spread to every world in the galaxy. The order went out through encrypted channels to the Council's most secret military bases. 50 massive ships began powering up their world-destroying weapons. Each ship was crewed by fanatics who had sworn to die rather than let the Council fall. But the humans knew they were coming. Agent Ko Sung-min intercepted the Doomsday Fleet orders within minutes of their transmission. Dr. Jang Mi-kyung analyzed the fleet composition and predicted their route. Captain Ryu Dong-wook's exploration ships began moving to intercept positions. They are bringing everything they have, General Yoon reported to the Earth Defense Council. 50 planet killers supported by 1,000 escort ships. It will be the largest fleet in galactic history. Admiral Park Yan-woo smiled coldly. Then we will give them the largest defeat in galactic history. But the humans had one more surprise waiting. As the Doomsday Fleet gathered its strength, liberation movements across the galaxy began their final push. On hundreds of worlds, oppressed species rose up simultaneously. Armed with human technology and guided by human intelligence, they struck at their oppressors with perfect coordination. The Council found itself fighting a galaxy-wide revolution just as they were preparing to destroy Earth. Their resources were stretched beyond breaking. Their authority was crumbling on every world they controlled, and the human Doomsday Fleet was approaching Earth, unaware that the planet they meant to destroy had already transformed itself into something beyond their comprehension. The final battle was about to begin.